Hi, I'm Python trainer Reuven Lerner, and you are watching my Python Standard Library video explainer series. This time, we're going to look at two relatively simple methods that are shared by all sequences in Python: strings, lists, and tuples. We're going to look at them through the eyes of lists. So if I have here my list equals 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and I say my list.index of 30, that means at which index can we find 30? And it'll tell us 2, meaning if I now say my list 2, sure enough, the item 30 is there. Not so hard. What if I say my list.index of 100, which is not there? I'm going to get a value error there saying, hey, 100 is not in the list. So if you're going to use index to look for something inside of a list, then you need to be sure that's actually going to be there, or trap it with an exception, which is probably a better way to do it. What if I say my list equals, let's say, a list of lists, 10, 20, 30, and 40, 50, 60, and 70, 80, 90. If I say here my list dot index of 50, it's going to give me that error. It's going to say, hey, 50 is not in the list. But if I say my list dot index of 40, 50, 60, well, that is an element. So it can take whatever objects you throw at it, and it'll tell you whether it's there or not. What if the same thing exists more than once? What if I say my list equals 10, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30? Then I can say here my list.index of 20, and it's going to say 1, because it's looking from the left-hand side, and the first index that it encounters, it will give us back. And unlike with strings where there's an r-index, if I say here my list.r-index of 20, it's going to tell me, I don't know, like there is no attribute like that. There is no method r-index. So strings have an r-index, but lists do not. The other thing I can do, now that I've got this list put together, I can say my list.count of 20. And that'll tell me how many times does this item appear in there. Well, if I say my list.count of 100, it'll tell me 0. All right, so this is a way to find out how many times something exists inside of a list. And count will always return an integer, as we can see, even if that integer is 0. All right, so these are two relatively simple methods, and we use them to just sort of look inside of our lists, and you'll see that they exist also on tuples and on strings in exactly the same way. All right, that's it for this time with my Standard Library video explainer. I'll be back soon with more videos explaining the Python Standard Library. If you like this, then subscribe, and I will see you very soon.